A man that is a heretic, after the first and second admonition, avoid, knowing that he that is such a one is subverted and sinneth, being condemned by his own judgment. So in the second general law, we are told to avoid the heretic. So the first one, the general law shows that the two can't even be equal together. They have no fellowship with each other because one is of God and one is of the devil. The second one, we are told that we are to avoid a heretic, to flee from them. Okay? He said, a man that's a heretic after the first, second admonition, avoid him. Have nothing to do with these heretics. He says, here we see the general command to avoid all such, that is, to flee from them, to have no communication with them. But he said, of course, what are we commanded to flee from them? I mean, having normal business dealings? No, we're commanded to flee in regard to what they preach and their religious services, their worship, everything. We're to have nothing to do with them. And this is because when we listen to the sermons of heretics, or we read their books, we can be easily persuaded to believe a lie. All right? Because we're fallen, and we can easily be deceived. And it is a rule, or not a rule. We are expected, maybe even commanded, to protect and guard our faith from being corrupted. So we should never sit and listen to these heretics. I remember when I was first becoming Catholic, or when I had not yet become Catholic, but I was very much interested in becoming Catholic, and of course I was going into the only thing I knew was the North Soto, and I remember hearing on the radio, on Catholic radio, because I was listening to that a lot, that this guy was saying how he would go to Mass somewhere on Sunday, but then in the evening he'd like to go to Rick Warren's church, Saddleback Church, I remember, and I was like, and he liked to listen to him, and he spoke of, Protestants as we're all brothers or whatever, and I remember the host was like, oh yeah, well, make sure, he made sure to let him know that, hey, this doesn't fulfill your Sunday obligation, and so and whatnot. But he's like, it wasn't. And he was like, yeah, I know. I still go to Mass, but I like to listen and hang out with the... And I just thought, something's odd about this, just seems weird. Not... Anyway, I'm kind of reminiscing, but it just seemed very strange that someone would want to do that. Like, would want to put themselves and sit at a false church. When I joined the Catholic Church, I joined the Catholic Church because I believed it to be the true faith. And I wouldn't be caught dead in a false church, if I knew it not to be the true church. So I had this mentality even prior to my converting to the true faith. I was a very conservative Presbyterian, and I wouldn't go to a non-Presbyterian church. I figured if they taught error, I'm not going to be there. And so I guess I carried that over with me a little bit, but this is something I noticed, when I first joined the Catholic Church. I noticed that there was this openness to heretics, listening to what they teach, and sitting at their churches, and I just noticed that, and I'm not trying to get into a testimonial here, but I am not surprised that what I see in the Nuevo Soto, because they're so open to, it's part of their faith, okay, to pray with each other, okay, to read the books of heretics so that you can become more understanding with them and be able to relate to them and see our commonality. And I mean, if you talk to them about outside the church no salvation, they're gonna think you're nuts. You know, if you say, yeah, you got to believe the true faith. You know, you got to be Catholic. You know, they're gonna look at you like you're out to lunch because I mean, look at the popes, look at the bishops. They all invite heretics and schismatics to their churches. They all have prayer together. They have prayer services together. They do. They're completely doing what Bishop Hay is condemning here. It's prevalent, you know. And I thought this when I remember I was converting. I thought this was, you know, I'd hear about charismatic Catholics. I'd hear about. I mean, there's all just in the back of my mind. I was like, you know, well, Catholic Church, you know, Catholic Church is a true faith. Yeah, maybe I'm wrong, you know, in thinking this idea, this ecumenical hodgepodge Catholic is odd, you know. I mean, I that where charismatic Catholic came from, where Protestant charismatic came from. I knew there's nothing of God in it. And then I see the Catholics pretending to be charismatic Catholics. I'm like, what is going on in the Catholic world? You know, how come supposedly the Pope would embrace this? Well, I thought, well, okay, maybe it's good. You know, I don't know. And I realized that no, I realized that something's rotten. You know, they say something's rotten in Denmark. So we're to avoid these heretics, but that's the problem. What we've been seeing in the North Soto is that they haven't avoided them; they embrace them. They try to learn from them as if there's something we can gain from these heretics. There's nothing we can gain from them as Catholics. We have everything. We have all truth, all authority, all power. Everything has been given to the church. We have nothing to gain. We have nothing to learn from them. You know, if I want to save my soul and if I want to follow Christ and do what's right, I don't need to ever look to the writings of heretics to learn that. I don't. They have nothing that I need. Whatever truth they have, they got from the Catholic Church. They stole. Okay, so we don't need it. There's no reason for any Catholic to ever have any association in things religious with heretics and schismatics. You never need to read their stuff. You never even need to look at it. In fact, you're better off not doing it because you're going to get confused. You know. So the second command is to avoid these people, to avoid the heretic.